Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this InfraNodus webinar. Please let me know if you can see the screen and if everything is working well. If something is not working, please let me know. We will just wait until some of the participants arrive. And in the meanwhile, I will present myself. So my name is Dimitri, and I'm the developer of InfraNodus, and today I want to present a webinar on the new features that we developed in the last months that allow you to use network science and data visualization together with GPT-3 AI to generate new ideas and to find interesting patterns in your data. The webinar will take about half an hour, maybe a little bit more. You're free to ask some questions. If you have them during the webinar, I will try to monitor the chat and the question and answer section to answer them directly. And I will also introduce a few polls to find out a little bit more about how you use InfraNodus and what your use cases are. So I'll appreciate if you can answer it. So with this, I will stop the video and go back to the screen share. I will enable the chat because someone is saying that it's disabled, but in fact, it seems like it should be working. So if the chat is disabled, you can also use the Q&A section. So that will work as well. And I will now share the first poll while we're waiting for people to join. So if you can answer some of the questions here, please do. I will also post the results so that everyone can see what the others have answered. It's about how you use AI in network analysis. So far, most of the people are answering that they use it to study an existing discourse and also for text mining, a little bit less for writing their own texts and developing ideas. So actually today I want to focus on showing also how you can use the network visualization and the AI to also create your own writing and to develop your own ideas, because it's kind of easy to use it for studying an existing discourse. And it's also a very interesting use case because most of the tools are actually made for writing, tools like Copy AI and Jarvis, but InfraNodus allows you to actually use an existing text and then apply the GPT-3 AI in a clever way based on the structure of the discourses network to then generate some interesting ideas. So I will end the poll now and publish the results so that you can all see it. As you can see, most of the people are using it to study an existing discourse of a text mining, writing your own text, developing ideas also. And there was a question from Jack, is the summarizing tool extractive or abstractive? Well, I mean, there are actually two summarizing tools, so I'm going to demonstrate how they both work, and they work in a different way, so you will see how they can be used. Please let me know if the chat is working now. I activated it, so if you have any questions, you can use the question and answer section, but also the chat as well. And with this, we will jump into the webinar directly. Great, thank you, David, and for everyone for using the chat. And hello, everyone. Hello, Richard, and Heinz, and Christoph, and Bojidar. Great. Okay, so we will begin. You should be seeing right now a screen share of InfraNodus and of the different nodes and the topics that were detected in one of the texts I was writing. And the first thing that I want to show you is just a general approach on how you can use the new app. So when you go to the apps page, and then you click on Add a New Graph. What you see now is the three options: analyze the text, develop an idea, explore a topic. And this is just to propose you to start from an existing discourse here. So when you click analyze the text, then you start with an existing discourse. If you click here, then you can copy and paste your text or import a file that you have. You can also start with an idea and develop an idea. And you can also explore it using the AI to generate some content for you. And I'm going to go through all of them one by one. So I'll start with analyzing a text. If you click here and then import a file, then you will go to this page and you can choose like a text or a PDF file. And in the end, I already did the import. Here I have Ray Dalio's last book, Principles, and it's visualized as a graph. And I'm going to show you how you can use InfraNodus and the new AI feature to get some interesting insights about it. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is that normally, and for those of you who also don't know exactly how InfraNodus work, normally you have a text. So this is a text of the book, and it's visualized as a graph where the separate words are the nodes, and the words that are used together in the same context are connected to one another. They form topical clusters. So the words that are often used together in this particular text will be in the same cluster, here shown with a different color. And the most influential elements based on network analysis are shown here in the most influential elements field in the analytics panel. And we received a lot of feedback from our users who thought that this information was a little bit too fragmented. So you see that there is a topic on country, people in China, and world currency, but you had to interpret it yourself. It was our intention at the beginning not to make the tool do the work for the people, but we realized that some people prefer to do it faster than to do it themselves. So we added the new show categories feature, which is based on GPT-3 OpenAI. So what happens here is if you ask it to show all the topics and then you click here, all of these topics that were detected using network analysis are sent to OpenAI, and it automatically categorizes them for you. And it works really well, much better than the API we had connected to it before, which was based on IBM Watson AI. So this OpenAI one, most of the time, is really precise, and it's doing a really good job of categorizing the topics you find. Once you categorize these topics, not only you can see them on the graph. So in this case, I can quickly see what the book is about. I see that Ray Dalio is writing about China and world history, world wars, economics, banking and finance, income inequality, business cycles, and military. So I get the gist of the book really quickly. It would take me a few hours to read it. And I understand what the main topics are about. On top of that, I can also export all this data, which would look something like this. If I click on full table, I see how it would look in the end, where I already have all those topics identified and shown in a table. So if I want to include these findings in my research, I can do that easily. And also what's great is that if you use the expert here, you would also be able to get the information about each statement and what topic it belongs to. So if you click on here, CSV expert, then you will be able to get this data as well. So this can be a pretty useful feature if you want to get an overview really quickly and then to export this data into your own research paper, into your presentation, or even to use it for adding some features into your machine learning models and other tools. So it's this new feature that shows categories, which is available here. Okay. The next one that I wanted to show you is a feature that not so many people know exists, but when you go to the filter panel at the top here, you can see the most essential statements selected based on the graph structure, right? And what happens here is that it actually takes the top topics that were identified in the text, and then it chooses the statements from the text that contain the highest concentration of those topics. Based on the structural insight, we get information about some problem with the selection. For some reason, my computer doesn't want to deselect things. Okay, so basically, I will just reload the page. You have a filter panel there, and then it's showing you the most essential statements, but based on the graph structure. So it detects the top topics first, and then it identifies in which statement there is the highest concentration of those terms. And based on this insight, it finds the top statements. And now what we did is we connected the AI summary inside so that you can generate a summary for the text based on those key statements and also based on the whole graph as well. So as you can see here, I get a really quick and short summary of what this text is about, and that the author is talking about cycles in history and how they're connected, depression, revolution, war, and also how it's caused by the financial policy, debt, and wealth. And you have a few suggestions here, which you can regenerate. And all the AI insights are always available here in this panel, AI insights. So everything is always being fed into this box here. And as you can see also, when we click on essential statements, it also highlights which of the nodes of the graph those essential statements touch. And as you can see, they actually touch almost all the key nodes in the graph. So this is why the summary that they produce is highly pertinent and usually really relevant as well. So this summary here, which is available from this menu, will generate the more or less precise summary of the text itself. You also have another option, and it's this AI graph summary here. And what this does is that it takes the key topical groups and the most influential elements and paraphrases the text to create a summary of the graph, but not taking into account the specifics of the content. So it's more like a paraphrase feature. We might actually rename it to such. But if you click here, it will also generate an overview of this graph using text, but it will do so not taking into account the specifics of this particular discourse. So this can be interesting if you analyze a certain text and you don't want to have a summary of it, but rather you want to create a sort of an overview of the main topics inside. So this is just another approach to do that. And probably this relates to Jack Jensen's question. If not, please elaborate in the chat so I understand a little bit better what you meant. Then Patrick is asking in the chat, probably a silly question, but can GPT-3 extract data from a scanned copy of a document and regenerate the analysis? Yes, of course, you can scan a copy as a PDF and then you upload the PDF. The only problem is that if your PDF is not readable as text, then it will not be able to extract the text. So if you have any problems, just use some other tool that could do the text recognition in your scanned document. Save it as a text file, TXT, or a PDF, but with the text inside, and then it's gonna work. Yes. If you have any questions, don't forget we have the chat here or the Q&A section. I will just answer a couple of more questions and then we move on in the webinar. So is there a confidence score or measure related to the summary results generated? No, because we don't get this data from OpenAI. So there is some kind of confidence score there, perhaps, but it's not telling you that this is like 90% sure of something like this. It's a little bit complicated for non-technical users, so this is why we didn't include it, but it's an interesting question and maybe we will consider including it later. And Lou is asking or saying, have you added a countdown feature for users to keep track of subscription usage of the AI? Also, it would be good to see when it will renew. Yes, Lou, this is a good point, and I'm going to add it into our feature request because it's true that I sometimes overuse it and get blocked myself. And it's also related to the limits that are put by OpenAI on us on how many requests we can do per hour. All right, so let's move on. This was a presentation of how you can get an overview of an existing text using Ray Dalio's book, Principles. I showed how you can generate categories here in the analytics panel. I also demonstrated how you can generate a more or less precise summary of the text here, and to create a paraphrase version of the graph by clicking this button here. You see, I overused my limit, it looked like. So you're not the only ones getting this message, and we're working on it, of course. And now let's move on. So I go back to the applications. And as I showed you at the beginning, you can analyze an existing text, develop an idea, or explore a topic. So we were now at the first part of this dialogue, analyzing the text. The second part is developing an idea. This is a very exciting feature because you can develop any idea you want using that feature, and it's really interesting. So for example, I will just put in an idea that I'm interested in. How does the concept of fractality, or how is the concept of fractality used in technology? Or I can even make it simpler. How are fractals used in technology? So you can start with a research question or an idea or a keyword. And what happens here is that it sends the structure of what you write to GPT-3 and then generates some interesting results for you, which you can then add into the graph. So I will demonstrate this workflow now. Here it says that they're using computer graphics because they can be generated by simple algorithms. Okay, great. So I know about this. It's using computer games, so I will save it into the graph. As you can see, the answer of the AI is visualized in the graph, and this is very helpful because after this graph is used to make the AI queries much more precise than you would normally have if you talked to it directly. So this is why graphs are very important here. And I can click on more facts. There's some more about computer graphics. Okay, realistic looking images. This is interesting. Then let's generate more facts. Maybe something new comes in. Okay, this is a weird statement, but I like it. I'm going to add it. Some poetry. Fractals are used in computer graphics, realistic images, to represent complex patterns in a compact way. Okay, so let's say I added a few elements, and what I can do now is a few things. I can select a few nodes like fractal, graphics, compression, technology. Then I can go here. So sometimes I have to click it again, and then it shows me the nodes that I selected, and it proposes me to generate some content related to it. I can generate research questions, facts, or ideas. I'll click on a fact and see what else it says about those topics. As you can see, I'm using the graph, and I'm selecting the ideas that I want to be connected with the new proposition to get some interesting information inside. Okay, so I added something here about fractal graphics computer technology, a little bit more precise than the previous version. And to answer the question of Heinz, how many languages can be eaten by the AI? So basically it works with almost all the most popular languages. Sometimes it gives you the answers in English, but we made it work with German, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, Japanese, Russian, Swedish, Italian. So there's quite a few languages. I think also Dutch. And yeah, you could even use your own language and feed it to the AI and it would answer you in English. So this is pretty good. And then Jeff is asking what format is the book uploaded in, PDF or TXT? Are you feeding the graph structure back to GPT-3? Yeah, this is the point. And this is why it works differently to the other tools, because here you're writing, you're feeding it to GPT-3, it's giving you the answers, you visualize it as a graph, then you take the key elements of the graph and feed them back into GPT-3. And the principle that is used in general in InfraNodus is described on the front page of the site. I can actually show it to you here really quickly so you understand what the principle is. We have it on the main page in the About section. So you have this graph here that shows how InfraNodus is constantly taking you from the states of bias and focus. So this is when you focus on certain concepts. If you find yourself in the point 1 or point 2, it will take you to the point of diversification. So it will attempt to diversify your discourse if it's too connected. If your discourse is then sufficiently diversified or dispersed, it will try to bring it back into the focus state. So if your ideas are too interconnected, then it's going to lead them to be more disconnected and to encourage you to explore the periphery of your ideas. If you're too much into the periphery, then it will ask you to connect the gaps between those ideas. And this is the main principle of operation here. And it's exactly how this system here also works. You visualize the text, show some ideas, it analyzes what the main topics are, what the discourse structure is. So in this case, it's focused. As it's focused, it's going to try to diversify. So when you go to the gap inside here, it will look at the less represented topics, and it will propose you to ask a research question. You see, they're both on the periphery, and it's trying to develop them further. And if you click here, then it will use GPT-3 AI to generate a research question that could link them in an interesting way. By the way, back in the day, you could only generate questions with InfraNodus because we thought that the AI should not do the work for you. But so many people wanted facts and ideas that now you can be very precise with it and even ask it to generate ideas. And it usually comes up with some app pitches or software ideas. It's pretty funny. Okay, I don't know what Austin style architecture is. Technique, similar loop structure. Repetition, algorithm. So you can also generate ideas here and research questions based. So you see loop algorithm. So here's proposing some algorithms. You can also do facts or questions. And this is where the structure of the discourse is taken into account. If at some point I have an idea, I don't always have to use the AI. I can also write my own idea inside. I recommend to tag it with ideas so you can distinguish it later from your own stuff from the AI generated stuff. So for example, here I can also write that fractals are also used for stock market analysis in finance. So I add some more stuff, and I can even select those nodes again and generate some more facts in relation to this idea that I just had using the AI to then develop it further. So this is how the graph is used. You can actually use it manually by selecting stuff. And if you don't select anything, then it will automatically choose the elements of your discourse that could be developed or the structural gaps that could be bridged. And then it will recommend you some questions. So for example, here it says bridge the structural gap between Austin Lay developed fractal-based technology. So it's about Austin University. Actually, if I don't want this, not so interested in the local specifics in this case, I can just delete it from the graph, go to the next advice. Okay, also let's get rid of Texas and Blade. So as you can see, this is also another approach that you can do, just hiding the nodes that you're not interested in, then generating advice based on what you're into. So in this case, these two topics, they seem to be interesting to me. And technique called iteration, repeating the same loop over and over. Okay, let's add this. An algorithm can be used to generate a fractal. Okay, so as you can see, it's a very playful workflow, and you can just put your own ideas in, use the AI here, use the analytics panel here, and develop a discourse. And what's great is that once you have a few of those ideas, your own stuff will be filtered out here. So these are AI content, my own ideas that I added here in the filter panel, and then I can export only the stuff I see. So the visible statements tagged as a CSV file and import them again, or use a different text editor to analyze it further. So before we move on to the next stage, I will answer a few questions. Massimo asked about Italian. Yes, it works in Italian. Peter, could you try generate a research question? Okay, so this I already have. And my friend is interested in seeing this great seminar later. It's possible to get a recording. Yes, it's going to be available on YouTube. Okay, so let's move on further. And I will show you the third feature. But before I do that, I want to demonstrate something from the first use case where you can analyze an existing discourse, because I know that a lot of people who worked in consulting joined this webinar, so they might be interested in that, because it's a really great approach to study a market or a certain industry. And I'm going to show you using an example of some product descriptions that I exported from Crunchbase. So if you don't know, Crunchbase is a database of startups, and basically I made a search for all the startups that work with AI and productivity, I think, maybe writing. And I just got all their descriptions to understand the current discourse of the market. So how do they pitch themselves? Okay. And here I have a visualization of their pitches. I think it's around 150 different pitches. And I can see, of course, that as they're talking about AI, there will be the word AI, which is pretty visible, platform. So they use the word platform a lot, productivity, assistant, and so on. I can use the categories feature to categorize all these different statements into groups. So I can understand what they're about. So I can see that a lot of those apps are work apps. Then some of them are for note-taking, data analytics, and productivity. Okay, great. So that gives me a clear idea of what this market is about. I can also generate a summary, which would be like a Frankenstein pitch based on all those different words. But it's pretty good. The app makes work smarter by automating decision-making. Yes, automation is a big word these days, helping with business meetings and taking notes for individual users. Okay, so you see, you even can have business ideas from that. And if you want a very specific business idea that would link two topics that exist in the text but are not connected yet, then you can go into Gap Insight, click Reveal the Gap. It will reveal the gap between two different topics that exist in this discourse but are not very well connected. And then you generate a research question that would link them together. And this might also be a really good way to think of some new ideas in relation to this market, and maybe to even come up with some interesting product ideas. So here it's talking about smart assistant that helps businesses capture meeting notes. Then meeting notes again, and chat app to make smart decisions in a variety of business systems. Okay, and then you can regenerate more. And as you can see, you can use the discourse that exists at a certain market to then generate some business ideas, research questions, and just to brainstorm, basically. So this could be really helpful for you if you have some data about a certain market, some descriptions of companies, of markets, and you could use this feature to generate new ideas for your clients, to monitor a certain discourse, to analyze it, and to see what are the most important stuff inside. All right, so let's move on. In the meanwhile, I'm going to answer the question of Michael. Have you tried to display a social network? Yes, from Crunchbase, it's pretty interesting. I just recently published it on the support portal about visualizing the networks of investors. So which investors tend to work together, and this works really well. You, of course, can also do it for Twitter and InfraNodus. And if you have any other data, you just export it as a CSV and import the relations. And yes, you can have social network visualization. And Lou is asking, can several individual graphs be combined and saved into a single graph to review the meta view in the context? Of course, yes, you can actually. So for example, here, I have the Ray Dalio Principles book. And then I have another graph where I took the key terms that exist in his book. I think it was country, debt, wealth, economy, power. And then I made a search on Google Scholar. And I wanted to compare how the discourse of Ray Dalio is different from the academic discourse on the topic. So in this case, if I want to do that, I have this book open and then I click on one of those buttons. This allows me to see intersection between two of several contexts. This shows me the difference, and this allows me to merge them. So I will look at the intersection to see what are the common things that exist both in the scientific discourse and in Ray Dalio's book on this topic. So I just select the second graph, and then I visualize them both at the same time. And the terms that will be highlighted are the ones that are mentioned both in Ray Dalio's book and in the search results for Google. You see, so much more about country and power, but for instance, China and military, this only exists in Ray Dalio's book. This is not so much present in the academic research on the subject, at least not in the stuff that show up at the top. Or cycle. So for example, here I really can see how his book is different from Google Discourse. And by the way, you can also get it in the analytics panel here. If you don't want to use the graph, you go to the gap insight when you have this to context, and then it shows you missing the current graph. So what exists in Ray Dalio's principles, but not in the Google Scholar search results. Cycle, China, currency, military. Okay. So I can use this information to understand how the stuff that he's writing about different from the general discourse, and then use the AI to select those nodes and generate some interesting facts on this topic. Sometimes, by the way, it's not scientifically precise. So these facts are more like propositions. You have to be careful and watch out that the AI is not lying to you. But this is also an interesting feature of it, and you can also prompt it much more precisely, and then it will be more or less to the point. You can also generate your own request here and get the answer from the AI based on this question. Okay, so one next thing that I wanted to show you is the third feature, where you can explore a topic. So we went through analyzing an existing text, then developing an idea. Now we go to explore a topic. And explore a topic is an interesting thing because you can basically type in any phrase, a keyword, and then it will generate some facts using GPT-3 and visualize the results for you. So let's ask somebody to write in the chat what search query we should put into this box. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to share another poll with you and ask you to answer the questions about what kind of tools you use in addition to InfraNodus. So if you could please answer this like this, we know what kind of software you like to use. And in the meanwhile, okay, so I received the proposition pandemic, modern theory of money. Okay, maybe some more suggestions in the chat about the search query we should use with the AI. Pancreatic cancer. Okay. Piero, I wouldn't use it for medically related stuff because I think it's not yet super precise, but it's a good proposition. How to sell AI, Jerry is saying. I don't know if it's a question to me or if we should ask it to OpenAI. Bitcoin, okay. We also can be more specific, so it doesn't have to be so general. It can be also more specific. Okay, so we have a lot of suggestions in the chat now. Okay, nice. So I'll just choose a few and show you how it can be used. So for instance, I see something on approaches. Actually, supply chain problems. Maybe this could be something that we could research because it's kind of pertinent at the moment, at this moment of history and time. Approaches to science indication, future of border security. I love all these prepositions. Maybe I will make demos for them. Oh, Richard is saying how to find a girlfriend. I actually use it a lot for this kind of things, like the meaning of life and stuff like that, because I love what the AI has to say. So we will use this query, but at the next demo, which I will do right after this one, where I will show you how the AI chat works. And thank you for answering all the questions in the chat. So I see that most of the people use data visualization tools and text mining software. And we also have some people who use Python and R, knowledge management systems, AI writing systems. So it's quite a good distribution, but most of the people are familiar with data visualization tools. It would be great if you write in the chat which tools you like to use, because I would be very interested to know what are some other platforms available out there that you like. And the same goes for text mining software and writing assistants. So if you could just write in the chat what you like to use, that would be really great. And I will stop sharing this poll and we will move on in the presentation. So let's say that we start from, yeah, Kevin, body mind operating system. I guess you're referring to A2S that we're also working on. Okay, so let's try this one. Let's take an easy one, natural language processing, but not too easy so that it has something to say. Oops, some copy and paste from my programming stuff. It's good if it was not a password. Okay, natural language processing. And here you can import either AI generated facts or Google results. So by default, that's AI generated facts. And what happens here is that it will query OpenAI to get the results, or like the context around this query. And as you see, these are just some facts generated by the AI on the left side. You can hide them or show them here. And these are the words that they use. I can go to the analytics, topics, generate categories. So I quickly understand what kind of topics we have here. So computer science, linguistics, communication, natural language processing. Okay, makes sense. And let's say I'm interested in what it's saying about human and interpretation, because I'm interested in perception. So here I have two statements. One of them says some natural language processing tasks are very difficult for humans. For example, computers can rapidly read and interpret large amounts of text much faster than humans can. Okay, great. So I will actually select text, natural language, and try to generate more facts in relation to this topic. So as you can see, this approach can be used for very quick brainstorming, and if you want to start writing about a certain idea, because it visualizes the semantic field for you, and then you can get the facts. You can also edit them here and, you know, save them as they are, or you can also generate your own ideas based on what you see. So it's really like a brainstorming tool that allows you to overcome the writer's block and to generate some content on a certain topic really quickly. Or if you're studying a certain subject, you could put it in and then generate some ideas based on it. So it's also available, by the way, here, live ideation. So I could also type in one of the other search queries were supply chain problems. Let's actually use the one where it shows us several results directly. Supply chain problems. By the way, this can also be really useful for search engine optimization, because you really quickly can get an idea about the terms that I used with a certain search query. And it's pretty precise. And also when you learn a new language, actually, because if you switch InfraNodus to French and you try to do the same, but you don't know all the French words that it will generate, this is a great way to learn new words in context. So there are multiple applications for this. Some of them are also really interesting personally. Okay, so we have some supply chain problem, and we see that the main topics here are about states, United States Department, vast world. Okay, the world's largest buyer, it's the Ministry of Defense, which is heavily involved into supply chains. It's interesting, actually, didn't know about that. So you can also generate categories. choose some stuff. You see it's talking about military presence here. Choose some stuff that you like, and then generate some more facts based on the selection. Okay, 600 billion on contracts with private companies. So here we're starting to explore a certain idea, starting from supply chains, now going to the question of how much money the Department of Defense is spending. So as you can see, it's pretty interesting to use this as an exploration tool, and I encourage you to try it out yourself with your own ideas and see how it's working for you. One other thing that I wanted to show you, and feel free, by the way, to also ask questions if you want me to show some more features for each of those functionalities. But we have a tab here on the apps page that says play mode, and it has some interesting applications, like you can convert your speech into graph, you can make music. But here we have a new experimental beta feature where you have the AI chat, so you can talk to GPT-3 AI to generate new ideas. And it's pretty interesting. So to come back to silly questions, you can even start from this. What is the meaning of life? It's going to be fed into GPT-3. It's going to respond something. And what it does is very interesting because, like I explained before, it follows this procedure of connecting your discourse if it's too disconnected. And if it's too connected, it's going to try to disrupt it and to propose some new topics. So for example, here, it's talking about a lot of debate, life is a gift, an opportunity to make a difference. So I can ask, why are you so practical, for example? Why is it always about having to be efficient? Okay, so it says, I believe that being practical is one of the best ways to connect with the world around us and make a difference in our lives. Make a difference. So as you see now, I'm just using it in this entertaining way, but you will be surprised. You can have really philosophical discussions with it. And what's great is because we have the graph and we have this visual feedback that is available both to us and to the AI, the conversation becomes much more specific than what you would normally have with the chatbot, because it's trying to explore different ideas if your thoughts are too interconnected, and it's trying to connect them if they're too dispersed. So this additional feature makes for very interesting conversations. So I will ask it, what is your purpose here? Okay, so the purpose of the AI is to connect with others in practical ways. And it's talking about the gift of life, making a difference to the world, and enjoying making gifts to each other. So this is how the chat feature works. Of course, you can also use it for more serious stuff. For instance, let's try with some suggestions from the chat. For instance, okay. How are graphs used in VR and AR? So this is one of the questions that we had in the chat. Few different representing data or information. This could be done by displaying a graph on virtual screen and use augmented reality to display information on top of real-world objects. Okay. Is displayed using those VR, AR graphs. So as you can see, you can also interact with the AI using the language and the graph in this chat-like manner. So you don't always have to be very technical by exporting or importing your text. You can also just have a conversation with it and use it to stimulate your ideas. You can always switch into the standard editor mode here. And once you do that, all the things that you added and that the AI added are available here. And then you can continue generating more ideas using this AI insight panel or just write your own stuff. So this is also another way of how it works. Garin is asking, can you show a search query example? I think I showed it just a few moments ago. When you make a search query to the AI, and then it generates the visualization for you of the results available. If you want to be more precise, please let me know in the chat. I will answer some questions now. Will InfraNodus insert in the DALL-E and Gato marvelous works? Of course, definitely yes, it's coming. One of the features that we want to make is that you will have a button that will generate an image based on your text here for some inspiration. The problem is that DALL-E generates somewhat boring images. They're very direct in the description. So we're trying to find an algorithm or maybe another tool that would provide better results. I think there's something called Midsummer or something like that, a new one. And we might include that one. Is there a feature, Rohan is asking, where nodes can be distributed geospatially? Well, for this, you would need to have geotags in each statement and nodes, because you see the way InfraNodus works is that it takes a statement. There are words here. So you would just be able to tell it where the nodes from this statement belong to, but there might be another statement where there might be different locations. So it's a little bit unclear how you would encode this information. If you have an idea about how to do that or some sample of the data that you use, please send me an email to Dimitri@Nodus Labs. I'm sending it into the chat. You can also send a request via support portal. Send us an example of the data you have, and then we will try to see how to visualize it the best way. And yes, it's called Midjourney. Thank you, Maciek. And it has an AI image bot. Great, we will check it out. Then Maltego is another suggestion. I will just read through more questions. How would the practical workflow look like? Baki is asking for auto-analyzing customer feedback from feedback channels and give out meaningful summaries of what's happening with the product. An overview explanation would be great. Okay, Baki, I'm going to show you something. I don't know if I have customer feedback in the examples here. Let me quickly see if there is anything here on customer feedback. The problem with, yeah, of course, we can just import something from Amazon. So we go to the apps and go to the marketing. And here we have an ability to import reviews for any sort of product. So for example, I will go on Amazon now. You will see my purchase history, which is a privacy violation. But let's say that I'm interested in MacBook Pro. Let's say I want this one. So you just need to take the link or the ASIN code, which is a unique identifier. I don't know, it doesn't show up there, but we can just take it here. Go back to the apps, marketing, and I'm going to show you how you can use the same approach to analyze customer reviews. So I just copy and paste the product code here, choose the site that I copied it from. By the way, I don't know if it's the same on the USA Amazon, but I'll choose the USA one, not the German one I use, because it's going to be in English, and this is better for us. MacBook Pro. Okay. So let's see if it's going. Yes, it doesn't exist on the American one, so I will have to take another product. Let's see. Okay, so let's take this one. Yeah, it's not available at the moment anyway, so maybe none of them are, but I just want to choose a product that we could use to demonstrate the analysis of customer feedback and customer reviews. So let's try this one. By the way, if you have some sample data, feel free to send it in the chat so we could do that. Let's try this Amazon. While it's importing, I will read some more questions. So how do you compare one text to another using the differences button? I will show that. Writing a TV series on having holidays on Mars, tool, AI writing. Art history. Okay, so these were the suggestions for the search queries. Any thoughts on creating web VR friendly graphs? Yes, we're researching one 3D visualization capability. So we might add this later, but to be honest, at the moment, this is not on the list of the highest priorities, but we're working on this. If you have any ideas or suggestions or wishes, please let us know, because we will be able to integrate them into the development process. Bojidar says that although I'm trying InfraNodus for almost 2 years now, I still find the learning curve difficult and long. Also, the pricing for daily users that want to use InfraNodus for writing and idea generation is quite high. Not saying it should not be, because it takes a lot of work and time developing it. Still, it cannot be used as a solo app. Do you have any plans to make a more basic version of the app? So I don't quite understand what you mean by the solo app, but just to explain to you a little bit our pricing policy. So we don't want to work with investors and to grow very fast at the moment. And this is why the whole company is bootstrapped. We have costs, development costs, software costs, API costs. And what we offer now is the lowest price that we can have. The closest product to InfraNodus is, I think, Quid and Primer. And I think you have to pay like 10,000 euro to use it. So I think personally that 9 euro is not such a high price for what there is on the offer. I don't know any other software that would combine this kind of features for that price. You also, of course, then have limitations, and then the next tier is 29 euro. But you can always switch to that tier, use the AI, and then switch back to the cloud. So here I'm giving you a nice hack on how you could save money, and then your charge will be prorated. So in the end, you can get away with quite a low usage. And if we ever decide to get investor money, then we will probably offer a free trial like all of those startups do, but this is not a viable model when you're bootstrapping. Kevin is asking what our competitors are. So as I said, Quid, Primer, they have really interesting text analysis products. Monkey Learn is really good. And then if you talk about AI writing space, I mean, this is not exactly competitors because we're not doing the same thing. InfraNodus is more of a text analysis tool, but you have Copy AI, Jarvis. So these are all really good tools. I highly recommend you to try them out. Then some more questions. Okay, there's another question comparing the graphs, which I'm going to show in a second. Reveal the non-obvious feature, which I will show. Phrases inside individual words. Could you visualize what graph configuration that relate after a certain? Okay, so yeah, Christoph is asking if we can visualize graph configurations that relate after some number of steps opposite discursive positions. No, we don't have this capability yet, but this is really interesting. I'm going to mark it, and please drop me a line. The email is in the chat. What you would like to do with it, because I'm always happy to hear about some new interesting use cases. And I would be very, very curious to hear how you would like to use it. And then let's also answer, can you use phrases instead of individual words? So cultural equity versus cultural equity. Yeah, I mean, you can connect the words. Like, for instance, here, MacBook Pro, you actually can select those nodes, then click on the link button, and then merge them together. So this is one way that you can do that. You can also use the syntaxes like this. If you write manually MacBook Pro, and then it's going to be saved as a phrase. We're also adding entity detection later. So you will be able to analyze this. And now I just come back quickly to show how you could analyze customer feedback, survey responses, product reviews with the same approach. So here I have a visualization of all the reviews for MacBook Pro laptop. As you can see, I can find the main terms here. And the workflow that I like to use is very simple. First of all, I just look at the graph, see what they're talking about. There are quite obvious things here. Of course, they talk about MacBook Pro, laptop, Apple. Okay, but still it's important to notice that all those words exist. Then you can use show categories to get an idea about the general discourse. Display, prices, video editing. So we see that a lot of people use it for video editing. Okay, so we get this insight. Then what I like to do with those reviews is to compare positive ones to negative ones. So you have this in the sentiment analysis, but also when you import from Amazon, you actually have this positive, negative reviews separation. So you can click on negative to see what the people who are saying negative things are saying. Okay, so they talk about laptop, Mac, Apple screen, and what the people who are saying positive things are saying and how they're different. So the people who are talking about the positive things are, for example, saying that it's fast and it has many different ports. If you click on each terms, you can see in which context it's used. And the people who talk negatively about it, they talk about the screen, something about the screen and keyboard and brightness. So this can provide a very nice insight on how the positive and the negative reviews are different. Another thing that you can do, which is pretty interesting, is to erase all the words that seem to be obvious, like MacBook Pro, laptop, Apple. Okay, we know that those words will exist. We hide them from the graph. And then once you've hidden a few more stuff, so for example, this we don't need, also 60 Hertz. Okay, then you can go to the gap inside and ask InfraNodus to identify the structural gap in the graph. So the two topics that are distinct from one another that could be connected. And then you generate an AI question that would link those two topics together. And this can usually generate some interesting ideas. So here it's connecting about the price with the features and power and the correlation, maybe suggesting that the laptop is a bit overpriced. So for example, here, if you were studying this market, if you were a representative of Apple, you would know obviously that this is a point that many customers might raise. If you're studying your competitor, the same thing. You look at the weak side of the discourse about this product, what new connections you can make, and then you can generate some interesting ideas that would make those connections, and you can integrate them into your own discourse about your own product, or you can improve what you have to say about the product that you study based on this information. So I hope this answers your question about how you can use the AI to analyze customer reviews and surveys. Okay, let's move on. Any other questions? If you have them, please let me know. Reveal the non-obvious features. So Lou was asking, what's the best way to reveal the to use the reveal the non-obvious features? So for example, here, if I go back to the book of Ray Dalio, the non-obvious feature, what it actually does is that it selects the most prominent nodes and then it removes them from the graph temporarily to see what's hiding behind them. So this is why it's a really interesting feature. And I'll show you how you can use it. So for example, here in this book, I see that he's talking a lot about country, power, and debt. Once I understood that, I want to dig a little bit deeper and to see what's hiding behind this. So I click on Reveal Non-Obvious. It removes these three nodes in the graph. They appear here. I can always bring them back. And it shows me what else pops up here. So now I understand, he's also talking about world, war, China, and cycles. Okay, I already know that. So I then click Reveal Non-Obvious again. It deletes those words also. They're shown here. And then we get deeper and deeper into the more specific topics of the book. So here he's talking about money system, big people. Okay, this we know also. I researched this book already with InfraNodus, so I know about all this stuff. And now at some point, as I delete the nodes from the graph, and by the way, you can also do it manually by selecting them and clicking the hide button here. But now I'm getting to the stuff that I was not so much aware about. So for example, economical periods, financial wealth, time, year. Okay, so great. I will choose financial wealth, economic, conflict, period, and see in which context those words are used in the book. So this allows me to explore the specifics of the content inside. Sorry, I just went back to the previous page by accident. And it also allows me to then use this graph with the main terms hidden to generate some interesting ideas with AI. So for example, I might select those nodes like I did here, and then click on facts to come up with some interesting facts to stimulate my ideas. And if I see something I like, which is maybe not so obvious, I can select it. And by the way, I don't only have to save it in the graph, but we also have a new feature here where you can leave some project notes. So this is just some ideas that you can save that will not be added into the graph, your own thoughts, insights based on what you find here and so on. So you can save them here in the clipboard and then always have it accessible to you when you come back to this graph later. So this is how you would use the reveal the non-obvious feature. It basically deletes nodes in an iterative way to show you what's hiding behind them and to help you discover the nuance in the discourse, some stuff that are hiding from the first sight. See here, now we're talking about periods of conflict and time and future and so on. So this is how you would use this feature. I will now post the last poll asking you to answer how you use InfraNodus in your work. Please tell me how you prefer to use InfraNodus at the moment, so we better understand what you're using it for and can design it better for you. Kevin is asking how to use it for SEO. And Rona, I will also answer your question about structure gets biased versus focused. Heinz is talking about webinars in the future. Yes, actually, another one is coming very soon. Another new feature that will be added. I will demonstrate how it works. For now, I will show how search engine optimization works, which can be very interesting for people who do consulting marketing, but also for writers, because it allows you to quickly understand what people are searching for and what they find. So for example, if I use this example of, let's actually use some example from the search queries that were suggested before, maybe like 3D printing from Kevin, for instance, 3D printing. Okay, so we add this search query, and what happens now is that InfraNodus visualizes search results for this query from Google, and also the suggested queries from Google. So you know when you type in and then it recommends you what other things that people who search for this search for. So this is exactly that. This is the visualization of that. By the way, if you don't see all the labels of the nodes, you can turn them on here. Okay, go back to the graph. All right, so here we see that there is a lot of people searching for free models of 3D printing. And the search queries are this. There's quite a lot about printer manufacturing and so on. The most interesting part is missing keywords. So it's the things that people search for, but do not find. It's not always the case. Like here, for instance, everything that people search for, they find. But sometimes you have search queries that people use that do not exist in search results yet. So this would be the ones that you could target. And also just having this visualization is pretty helpful because you can already see that a lot of people are searching for free models. So if you're creating content on 3D printing, you would know to add some models to download for free in exchange for an email or something. So this is how it could be used. And you can try it on any other search query you like. We also have a lot of help articles on the support portal, the link to which I provided in the chat. And it's available here. Marketing, SEO, market niche is an easier version of that. Then focused bias discourse. So just saw Ara's question, Monkey Learn is the software. I will write it in. Another one that is similar to InfraNodus is Squid, Primer, AI, Jarvis. So we basically combine we try to combine all of them at once. But you can check them out, and they're pretty interesting. Kevin is saying, I used USA. Can you do worldwide? Yes, you actually have many different countries here, but you can only select by the country. And then you can also have different languages. You can also just make the search query only for what people search for. So if I wanted to take over the field of data visualization, I would make a search to see what people search for when they search for data visualization, mark this here on the keyword suggestions. So what people search for in relation to this. And then I see very quickly that, okay, a lot of people are interested in Python examples. A lot of people use Tableau as well. So this would be the main competitor in the field, Matplotlib and so on. So you see, I really quickly get the idea of the discourse of the demand for a certain search term, and I can use that to create more interesting content. Then to show the difference of the focused and biased discourse, so let me maybe show you something here. Let's say I have here is the export from Zotero, which I did, of abstracts. So I'm making a research on bias in discourse, and I have maybe 50 papers that I saved into a folder in my Zotero, which is a manager for research papers. You have PDFs there, and they're saved into a folder. And you can export them as a CSV file, where you have the titles and the abstracts of the papers. And then I imported them all here. I give them categories, so I can see only the abstracts if I want, or only the titles, by the way, which is interesting because you can see that the titles are pretty similar to abstracts. Very well done to the scientists who wrote that. And then here, the discourse is focused. And what it means is that its structure is interconnected. While there are different topics, they're very much related to one another. And so there is a focus here on news, analysis, and discourse. It's written new because the word news is lemmatized, but basically it's news, analysis, and discourse. So I see that this whole discourse is too focused on analyzing the news. So if I wanted to move it to be more dispersed, so here the structure is focused, it's explained here how this is calculated. If you click on the question mark, you can find out more about it. If I wanted to be more diversified, I would need to diversify. And here it explains me how I can do that by identifying the less developed clusters in the graph and making connections between them. And this is exactly what this AI suggesting feature does. It identifies those clusters and it asks me a question how they're connected, and it uses the AI to connect them together. So this is how you could do that. A biased discourse would be something like this. Let me make a new graph and start with something new. So for example, I would just add a text. As you can see, this is a very interconnected structure, and the discourse structure is biased in this case. So that means that all the topics, or most of the topics, belong to the same topical group. Once I introduce a little bit of variability here, so for example, I write that waves of electromagnetic spectrum. So I'm adding another topic. I have two topics now, but still most influential elements belong to the same group. So this is why it's still biased. I can then develop this discourse further. I can select some terms, use the AI to generate some content. And then gradually it will become focused, because this is where InfraNodus will attempt to move me to, from the bias to the focused state. You see, focused. Then as I continue receiving the suggestions based on the structural gaps, gradually it's going to become diversified, and when it's diversified, it will get focused again. So this is how it works. Massimo is asking, by the way, I will end the poll and show the results. So most of the people who use InfraNodus use it to study an existing discourse, generate new ideas, and get a different perspective. And the least popular option is to discover market opportunities and present the findings. Okay, so most of the people study an existing discourse. If you let me know in the chat what kind of existing discourses they are, please let me know. This would be really interesting to find out what data sets you like to use, whether it's PDFs files, research, or some publicly available data sets. And let's see if there's any more questions. So Massimo asked an example of creative writing. I kind of showed it already a little bit before. When you start to write, so for example, how I would do that normally, I would start with this live ideation app available here, and I would just write, start from some topic I'm interested in, fractals. I add this, select the node, generate some AI facts. This is just to get me started. Mandelbrot set, yes. Then computer graphics, realistic images, fractals, iterative algorithms. Okay, then it makes me think of something where a lot of phenomena in nature can be described using fractals and so on. So I will generate some ideas using the AI, add some of my own. I will not go through the whole process here, but I do have a YouTube video on our YouTube channel, to which I'm going to send you a link now in the chat, where you can see how to go with that flow of developing an idea or to use it for creative writing. So I'm going to add the link to the chat here, and you can find it out there, more information about how to use it. Okay. Let's see more questions. If there is anything else, does hiding terms after overall structure the whole text alter the overall structure of the whole text network? Yes, because they're not anymore in the graph, so it alters the community structure. But if you just want to hide the topics without altering the structure of the text, you can do that by using the filter feature here. So I will show you how to do that. Here we have the structure of the text. I could remove the, let's say, some of the words like base and document. Then as you see, it changes the structure of the text. Well, they were small, so it didn't change much, but some words did change. If you just want to remove some of the nodes to make the graph a little bit cleaner, then you go to the settings, filters, then you ask it to not show the nodes with a certain degree. Okay, so this just hides the nodes, but doesn't really alter the graph structure. You also can use this filter here, where you select the stuff in the beginning of the text and in the end of the text. But this works well if you are gradually adding information inside. But mainly this filter feature here allows you to filter the graph and to hide some stuff without altering the structure of the graph. Hope that helps. And thank you to everyone for your feedback. This has been already more than an hour. So I think we will bring it to an end now. If you have any questions left, please let me know. I will now read through the questions and answers in the chat to see if I've missed anything. Maybe, right. Okay, I think we have everything covered, more or less. We will have more webinars. And also, you can always write to the support channel, the link to which I'm going to leave you here right now, because there is also a lot of tutorials there which you can use. And thank you everyone for taking part in this webinar. It was a pleasure to meet you. And thank you for the very interesting questions that you asked, and for your time as well. If you have any ideas, suggestions, questions, comments, please let me know via the support portal or the email that I'm going to leave once again in the chat. I think the next webinar is going to take place in about 2 or 3 weeks. I will send you the invitations to it. And thank you very much. I hope you enjoy using those new features. They're very new. We're improving them almost every day. So you will see some enhancements there as we go along. Among the future plans is to add the entity detection. So you would be able to get much more precise information about the content that is contained inside the texts, and to simplify the import features as well. So it will be much easier to import big files of data and different formats, different sources as well. If you have any suggestions, please let me know as well. I would be very interested to hear. And thanks again for your time. Please let me know in the chat as we're finishing now if you have any feedback or ideas in relation to this webinar, something you thought of. Also, after the webinar, you will receive a link to a short survey, which I encourage you to answer, so I understand a little bit better what your work flows are and what you're working on and how you would like to develop it further. And I'm just reading through some chat messages now to see if there's anything that I missed. Kevin is asking, where do we meet for the after party? Well, if you were in Berlin, I could recommend you some nice places, but online, I don't know, really. Thank you, Rahan, also for your feedback. I'm glad you enjoyed the webinar. Please don't forget to check our YouTube channel. Going to send the link to it, to the whole channel as well. By the way, the recording of this webinar is also available there. It's actually streaming live right now. So I'm just going to send the link to our channel. Please subscribe. And as the bloggers say, like, share, comment YouTube channel, because it really helps to promote different ideas. Darius was asking on YouTube if it's possible to import public messages from Telegram. Yes. What I do is I use the RSS import tool from some company called, I think it's RSS app or something like that. And then you can connect to a public Telegram channel, get the RSS feed, and then import the RSS feed into InfraNodus. So this is how you would use that. And Ale Aras is asking a link to the webinar stream, which I'm going to send right now. It's on the channel. Here we go. Okay, let's see if there's any more. Lou is asking discourse structure. What is the worst, bias, and best? No worst and best, but bias is very good when you want to be very precise and very sharp. So it's good for ideological texts, advertising, pitches. But if you want to write a scientific article that exposes several points of view, you want diversified structure. And if you are writing a piece of news, then you would like it to be focused. So this is generally the indicator. And if you're writing poetry, you want it to be dispersed, because this is my personal preference, and also the result of analyzing different kinds of texts. Some very interesting poetry is often dispersed in the structure, because they're using the words in different contexts. They don't really connect, and this is why your imagination tries to fill in the gaps, and so you get a more interesting feeling about the writing. So Casimir is saying that he couldn't see any links in the chat, so I'm going to send them once again. This is the video of the webinar. This is the support portal. this is the email that you can use to contact me if you have any questions. LinkedIn social listening feature, no plans yet, but let's add it to feature suggestions. And we just need to see if they make this data available. I would like to know if you write to me, Kevin, what you would use it for, what the use case would be. That would be really interesting to know, because then we could make it best suited for what you want to use it for. All right. So also, as the videos didn't work, I will also the links didn't go through. I will also send another one to the using OpenAI to write new texts. So here's another link to another tutorial, and another link to the channel on YouTube that we have, so you can use it as well. All right. So I think we're good to go now. Thank you very much, everyone, again, for staying so long with me and with all of us. Let's be in touch, and I hope you enjoy these new features. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, feedback, and let's stay in contact, and I will inform you about the next one. Thank you very much. And I'm going to end this webinar now. My name is Dimitri. Thank you very much to everyone. Have a nice day, evening.